developers. Hang on, let no developers. Turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no developers turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. Bureaucrats. Ain't gonna let no bureaucrats turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no bureaucrats turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom lands.
Donna Spencer, Managing and Artistic Director of the Firehall Art Center, is a woman firmly committed to the arts and very well respected by her colleagues. At least I think she is.
5, 6, 7, 8. D-O-N-N-A, 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 and Donna was her name.
Donna? Donna who?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Firehall Art Center.
We're your hosts.
We're your hosts.
The artistic.
And
managing director.
the wonderful Donna Spencer resides.
Yes, sir. Let me take you on a tour.
Let me take you on a tour of the theater. Oh, look at there.
Donna is the only person I know who has her own bronze star outside the door of the fire hall, so that's important. And she's also been known to come into the Touchstone office and buy cigarettes, 2 for a quarter. Although she hasn't recently, it's true. That's Donna.
Oh, Donna, oh, Donna.
Donna Spencer is a woman of many talents. Beginning her career as an actress in the early 70s, she eventually moved on to administrative, technical, and creative positions with City Stage, Carousel Theatre, and Stage 33. In addition to her duties as artistic and managing director of the Firehall Arts Centre, Donna Spencer also enjoys the title of founding director of the Vancouver Cultural Alliance and chairperson for the Vancouver Council Committee for the Arts. I caught up with Donna at the Firehall Arts Centre on the corner of Cordova and Gore, where I asked her what made her turn to producing and directing.
My personality flaw, perhaps, I don't know. No, I don't know. I first acting class I went to, I made the announcement that I was going to be a director and a producer, and I certainly had no idea what that meant at that time. So I don't know, it's one of those things that happens. All of a sudden you find yourself working for a goal, or towards a goal, and you're not quite sure why you made that decision, but it's been the right, it's obviously been the right one for me.
What is the greatest thing that you've learned out of the whole experience?
Probably patience. I'm a far more patient person than I used to be, and I find that it's very valuable in the kind of work I do, because funding doesn't always happen like this if you're looking for funds for a project, and when you're directing a show, it doesn't come together if you get anxious and yell at people. So I think patience is probably one of the things that I've learned. And people around here keep calling me Mum. I don't like that particularly, but it seems to carry forward in my work that this need to nurture and this need to make sure that everybody is all right.
Donna Spencer. Just like my mom. Or just a slightly older sister, actually. Well, younger sister, perhaps.
Donna. I can sum it up in a couple of words. How much is that gonna cost?
Donna? Yeah, she's a great person. She loves Chinese food. The only thing that bugs me, though, is, she's great at using chopsticks, but I have to ask for a fork.
Donna has directed a range of plays, from the socially relevant Extremities, the story of a woman's revenge on her sexual attacker, to Neil Simon's comedy, The Good Doctor. Presently, she's breaking new ground with cross-cultural theatre. Donna explains.
What I like to say we're doing is Canadian theatre. And by doing Canadian theatre, you involve artists of all colours. You involve playwrights of all colours. It becomes cross-cultural because the majority of Canadian theatre does not deal with artists from all cultures. It does not deal with writers from all cultures.
Is this being done elsewhere in Canada, or is this pretty well the only place?
I understand that we are the only company of this nature. There are companies, there are certainly native performing companies, there are some black performing companies, but I don't know of any company, professional company, that is actually working with people of all backgrounds, all heritages.
Did you set out to do that specific thing at the time that you started here? Has it evolved?
It evolved. It actually, we started to talk more seriously about creating a theater company. I think it was around 1985. I think how it all happened was the board of directors and myself started realizing that really, if we wanted to do theater that was true to our beliefs, we should pursue a company that involved artists from all backgrounds, and actors don't grow unless they get the opportunity to work. So it's a bit of a catch-22. You might not have any Canadian, Japanese performers, and the reason would be because they aren't getting a lot of work, so they don't get a chance to grow.
Donna, I work here, and I don't really want to talk about her because she scares me.
When she's yelled at me, boy, do I feel intimidated.
Gee, what can I say about Donna? There's just so much I could say about Donna. Let's see. Nah.
Donna, she's the one with dark hair. Yeah, oh yeah, I remember Donna. Yeah, I remember Donna. She was here last week or something. But anyways, if you really want a good show to see A Comics Tale. It's running now, Firehall Arts Centre until the 28th of April. It's a great show. It's got cartoon artistry throughout it, an elaborate soundscape, and an interesting mix of physical theatre. It's really a fabulous show.
But what about Donna?
Donna? Donna who?
Excuse me.
I see that you have a report on a book launching that took place October 24th at the Chinese Cultural Center.
I was there for the launching of Tales from Gold Mountain, Stories of the Chinese in the New World, Pa Yi's new book. The paintings in the book are by Simon Ng. We'll return to Pa Yi later in this segment, but first, I'll look at a few of Simon Ng's paintings. At the reception at the Chinese Cultural Center, Pa Yi talked about why he wrote Tales from Gold Mountain.
And I guess I stand here and I say, well, I'm from the Chinese-Canadian part of the community. I'm from the Canadian-born sector, and I just want to keep reminding places like the Chinese Culture Center that, yes, it is still our responsibility to keep telling our stories, to keep interpreting our history. Because it is our history and it's something that we all share. And that would certainly be the prime reason behind why I wrote the stories in Tales from Gold Mountain. I think most of you who know me know that I am a fanatic about history. Unfortunately, the popular consciousness, the popular masses aren't so favorably disposed towards history. You mention the word history to them and they go, and they doze off. And what I've done, or what I decided to do, was to take history and to also take a very familiar genre of literature, which is folktales, and to marry them, and to reinterpret and make history more accessible in a form that we all know, in a form that we all love. We all know Aesop's fables. We all read Grimm's fairy tales, Sleeping Beauty, stories like this. Well, these stories aren't that different. And I see the form, the genre of the stories, taking them into Canadian literature, into the Canadian consciousness in a big hurry. And that's why I did this book the way I did it. Does that answer the question? Okay, so now they want me to read from Tales of Gold Mountain. I will just read very, very briefly from my favorite story, which is the very first one. And my selection is actually very special to me because it's probably one section that represents everything that I want to do in the book, that I was choosing to recognize Canadian history, and I also want to pick up on a lot of portions of Chinese folk culture that somehow managed to become embedded in my brain just from being raised here in a Chinatown. So, Spirits of the Railway, page 14. The scenario is a young man has got into a haunted tunnel during the construction of the railway, and he encounters a ghost. The ghost is his father. His father's voice quivered with rage. I am gone, but I am not done yet. My son, an accident here, killed many men. A fuse exploded before the workers could run. A ton of rock dropped on us and crushed us flat. They buried the whites in a churchyard, but our bodies were thrown into the river where the current swept us away. We have no final resting place. Chu fell upon his knees. What shall I do then? His father's words filled the tunnel. Take chopsticks, they shall be our bones. Take straw matting, that can be our flesh. Wrap them together and tie them tightly. Take them to the mountain, high above the nests of eagles, and cover us with soil. Pour tea over our beds, and then we shall sleep in peace. When Chu looked up, his father had vanished. He stumbled out of the tunnel and blurted the story to his friends. Immediately, they prepared the bundles and sent him off with ropes and a shovel to the foot of the cliff. When he swung himself over the top, he was so high up, he thought he could see the distant ocean. He dug the graves deeper than any wild animal could dig and laid the bundles gently in the earth. Then Chu brought his fists above his head and bowed 3 times. He knelt and touched his forehead to the soil 3 times. And in a loud, clear voice, he declared, 3 times I bow, 3 things I vow. Your pain shall stop now, your sleep shall soothe you now, and I will never forget you. Farewell. So that's all I want to read.
Everyone mingled after the reading, while Paul Yee began the inevitable autographing of books. He is also the author of Saltwater City, a history of the Chinese in Vancouver. As well, Paul Yee has published 2 children's stories, Teach Me to Fly, Skyfighter, and Curses of the Third Uncle. After signing autographs for a large and appreciative audience, Paul Yee was asked if he ever got tired of signing books. He replied, I hope it never stops.
We have 1 copy of Paul Yee's Tales from Gold Mountain to give away. The publishers, Groundwood Books, a division of Douglas and McIntyre, have asked us to ask our audience to tell us in 25 words or less what Gold Mountain means to you.
Send your answers to Chinatown Today, care of Rogers Cable 4, 1818 Cornwall Avenue, Vancouver, British Columbia, Victor 6 Juliet, 1 Charlie 7. That address again, Chinatown Today, care of Rogers Cable 4, 1818 Cornwall Avenue, Vancouver, BC, Victor 6J, 1C7. We'll announce our winner next month.
Hi, I'm Rita Wong, and I have the honor of talking with Wayson Choy today. We're outside the UBC Longhouse, the First Nations Longhouse. Welcome, Wayson.
Thank you. It was good to be here.
I guess the Chinese community, but also more largely in Canada, per se. And we're at a conference that's talking about racism, and I've been feeling a little bit of absence around discussion of queerness and how that works within all of this, and heterosexism. And I'm sure you know, but your very example and your very presence is a real inspiration for many of us who I think are going through battles that you have already gone through, or in different times and in different ways, but we're still reenacting those kinds of struggles.
Oh, listen, it's nothing that I've resolved myself, except that each time I confront, for example, homophobia or any ism that I feel is toxic, I am in that same position. And I think you have to be aware, as I've become aware, that any ism that you confront, any phobia that is unjust that you confront is the same enemy. And once you have somebody resolve one, neutralize another, they come closer to understanding those things that make you vulnerable to their phobia or to their ism. I don't know that, as a gay person myself, I sometimes think, should it be the one and single battle, or is it in fact a universal battle? Doesn't have to do only with sexuality, but with racism, with ageism, because now I'm 64 and I'm realizing, oh yeah, there's something going on here when you get old. And of course I knew that, but now I know that I'm here now and it is a different battlefield, and it's the same one at the same time. So the trick is not to focus just on one form of ism or feel that it's being neglected, because any resolution of an ism or a phobia automatically begins to resolve and unlock and out the other.
I certainly hope so. I mean, I think that has been the case for me, but I also observe how in some cases that's not the case. Or I meet people who have really good analysis around, say, gender, and then don't get it in terms of race, or in terms of, you know, other things. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's a real struggle to constantly, I think, get us aware of that.
Well, I think that gives you a clue then how deeply ingrained and imprinted the wrong history is part of that person. Something they cannot give up. For example, the approval of their father not to be a fag, the approval of their girlfriend to not to be like that, etc. So you need to know that those are their problems, but they are problems that you can help them understand or be less fearful of. You know, I can't imagine how many times I've walked into a classroom of mostly boys, technology boys, when I was teaching that area, and here I am, and it's clearly who I am, and they're going, ah, and I love it, because I think, you just wait, Henry Higgins, because we're going to teach you something, that this is a human being that you can respect. And that's it. And to me, it's not sexual orientation or racism. It's get to know me. And I'm going to get to know you. And let's work to challenge what we don't understand about each other. Easier said than done, and a very difficult path to choose, especially if somebody is so toxic. But you know, when people are extremely toxic, you should walk away.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be stupid about it. Yeah, you shouldn't be stupid about it. And if they're dangerous or they're going to, you know, be violent, you walk away. But most people aren't. Most people are waiting for somebody to say, take this fear away from me.
Well, I think that's a good place to stop with those courageous words.
Well, I don't know if they're courageous, but they certainly have guided me. Yeah.
Thank you, Wayson.
Thank you. So good to be with you. Thanks.
Saltwater City is Vancouver for the low IQ. Saltwater City is TV for me and you. Independent community TV, beaming into people's living rooms to set them free. Hi-ya! Hi-ya! Saltwater City, I'm so foul. 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 Saltwater City, get in the shoes. Saltwater City of the low IQ. Saltwater City will give you the news. Saltwater City will cure your blues. Saltwater City is Vancouver for the low IQ. Saltwater City is TV for me and you. Independent community TV, beaming into people's living rooms to set them free. Hi-ya!
Thank you. First, I'd like to acknowledge the Coast Salish First Nations, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Musqueam, and the Squamish, on whose unceded territory we're having this meeting. I think, as Dave Dewart suggested, this is a very important point that we should be making, that we are on stolen land. Yeah. My name is Sid Tan, and I'm a 35-plus year resident of Vancouver. Post-Expo, I lived in a single-room occupancy off and on for 10 years. I've managed to get stable housing. I'm a renter, and I very much appreciate being a Canadian and being part of the political process, something that was not always available to my family. And maybe this is what I want to talk about. But first, I think it's really important to understand that I am a disenfranchised member of the downtown Neighborhood Council. I am a founding director of the downtown Eastside Neighborhood Council. And yet, in the past 8 to 10 months, there has been no engagement. And in fact, I've been told that I'm no longer a member. So as you go through this lap process, I believe that councillors and the mayor should actually take a look at what has happened at the downtown Eastside Neighborhood Council. I think this would be very important to look at the process that we are engaged in, because I am here to speak from my heart, because we are talking about the heart of the city. We are talking about the soul of the city, the downtown East Side, which I can remember was called Skid Row before a number of activists, including Gene Swanson, who's here, turned it into the downtown East Side. And I think it's really important to remember that these struggles are what has made the downtown East Side such a destination for yuppies, for yuppie larvae, and for the hipsters. This is why people have put decades of work into this community to build an arts community, to build a caring and sharing community. What I want to know is, how is this reflected in the lap? How is this sweat equity? How is this heavy lifting by low-income members of this community with very little to build what may be called, it seems, the hippest community now, or going to be, and yet there is no recovery. There is no take back. You know, the real estate prices have gone up because low-income people moved down there and made it possible for it to be a home. But there's no recovery. There's nothing to be recovered from the people that gain from the real estate prices. How is that fair? How is that possible in a world-class city? And dare I say, a world-class city that has some of the highest real estate prices in the world. That's the world class. I'm talking about a world-class city with social housing. I'm talking about a world-class city where it's affordable, except for the help of friends and people that I've established relationships with. But for the grace of God, I would be living in the downtown East Side in an SRO now. This is why I put the time and effort into helping the low-income community. I am low income, so why wouldn't I do that? And this is the thing that you have to ask yourself. When you become world class, does that mean you exclude low income people? Because I've gone through a lot of this stuff, the 60-40, all these numbers, all these things, you know, honestly, I can't make sense out of them. And I know I'm not the smartest knife. I know I'm not the sharpest knife. But I can't make sense of it, and I've talked to a lot of people that do. We are talking about, I guess, what would be famously called weasels. We're talking about wanking. We're talking about things that city staff and people, developers can go back and change. There are no guarantees. Where are the guarantees for low income and affordable housing in this lap? Thank you very much.
Redress, taxpayers now. 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 Taxpayers now. Redress, taxpayers now. Redress, taxpayers now. Redress, taxpayers now. Well, guys, okay. Can I see you inside? Go inside too? Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye. At the time, that was $500 in 2000.
Bà hỏi bà, ô, như bề thọ, bề suốt rồi. Chỉ thấy nào, ưng đến nào, hắn tới tiếng quay ấn thời đó. Hay bà, dân quay quay mượn ấy. Nó nhìn hay sự kiếm chí nó nhìn nó hả ôi, dân quay quay. Mới nói, hãy chiếc bóng qua, rồi hấu lộ hãy là, dâu rồi ô phương chốt chỉ khéo oi chân cha lù bà. Rồi nó lúc ra ôi mặt của con. Chứ mà nó hay nhìn là chăm chính rồi. Ơi cả thời tập trình chứ anh cho hoa hay chủ giả hoa nó người dân phải phân quản những gì nó con kìa. Okay?
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Dear brothers and sisters,各位兄弟姊妹，allies, 各位朋友，各位同行 we are here today because they will not let us inside. 我哋今日喺呢度係因為佢哋唔俾我哋入邊。How is it that those descendants of head taxpayers and those spouses are shut out of any redress? 點解啲人頭稅嘅後人嘅家屬係被棄於呢個會議嘅門外 ？How is it that the government and its apologists and lackeys continue to humiliate our people? 點解呢啲政府嘅官員繼續喺度lackeys 藐視同埋藐視我哋 servants and their servants, yeah. And their servants. 同埋佢哋嘅 How is it that the government and its servants 所有嘅政府嘅官員 can cook up this kind of deal and keep us outside? 同埋佢哋嘅同路人可以將我哋呢啲人遺棄喺出邊。
Net taxpayers and descendants have been registered by the Chinese-Canadian National Congress. And this is why these Chinese-Canadians here are not signing on to Raymond Chan's deal because we don't feel it's right. I thought I should go in and report and find out what's going on inside, but I think it's more important to stand out here and be a voice.
NCCC, let's speak for me. NCCC, let's speak for me. NCCC,
What is our dues? We want redress for the head tax blues. We want redress for the head tax blues. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah,
all pulled together, all communities in Canada. An apology is an apology. There should be no preset conditions. The taxpayers and their descendants must be negotiated with.
never forget the day I met you. You danced into the room on wings of sunlight. I knew right then I had always known you. Maybe from a distant star or from a rainbow world. Still, here we are, believing in fairies and all the good that follows. Still, here we are. 40 years have flown with no tomorrows. You were there for me when my baby boy was born. I was there for you when you had your 2 little angels. You were there for me when my son went to heaven. We were there for each other through all the joy and sorrows. Still, here we are, believing in fairies and all the good that follows. Still, here we are. 40 years have flown with no tomorrows. You're my dearest friend, my kindred sister. If there's a way to say how much I love you, I hope you know this song is written for you. I sing your praise and bow to God within you, and still here we are, believing in fairies and all the good that follows. Still, here we are. 40 years have flown with no tomorrows. Still, here we are, believing in fairies and angels and Jesus and peace and happiness. Still, here we are. 2 older girls with the same old dreams that every child be safe. Still, here we are. Still, here we are.
What's the story with this Guangdong stuff? Is it true?
Sure. I'm not surprised that Guangdong is the guy that's really behind the all the wealth and all the experience and all the power and all the goodness that's in Chinatown. I mean, Guangdong probably is the is who knows? He may be the head right now of corporate Chinese North America.
Find that the spirit of Guangdong is all around us.
Well, Guangdong is looked on more than anything else as an ancestral god. But I think Guangdong is a spirit. He's a spirit that's alive. It's much more than simply an effigy or something of the past that you can tell little kids and there's a good story behind it. More than anything else, I think he exemplifies the spirit, and the spirit is what lives. And sometimes you see that spirit, a certain amount of pride, a certain amount of coming out and doing something that's beyond the call of your own duty, or you're confined to your own station in life, or even your own courage. I mean, in some way we can look at it as saying, like, we can actually see bits of Guangdong in our fellow Chinese Canadians.
The introduction to your book is a part from Frank Chin. Could you tell us how you came about to use that?
Well, one of the very earliest literary pieces that I read and I've come across was Frank Chin's works. And Frank Chin wrote a play called Year of the Dragon. It itself is one of the most powerful plays that and pieces of literary work that I think, even up to now, I think it stands, and still very few people, very few writers have reached that level with it. And the writing deals with the ironies of what our culture represents. And in fact, the idea that part of us lives on, part of us lives on an acting stage. We're put up, we're Chinese, we're different, and sometimes we exploit it, for various reasons. We exploit Bruce Lee because if that means that we can frighten somebody and not even allow us to fight, to hit us and hurt us, that's fine.
Tradition is a very introspective poem. How did you come about to write it?
I've often thought about the idea of culture. And culture is such an elusive thing. People say that culture is something that comes out of books, out of artwork, things that people can see. And I've often thought about that. And culture itself is sometimes a lot more intangible than that. Because I think we are part of that culture. We are culture. We are part of what makes tradition work. And because we believe in it, we observe it, and we feel it, and we understand it, or we intend to grasp for it. And one time I was eating this zhong, and I stopped for a minute, and it dawned on me that I don't know why I'm eating it, and why do I have to eat it? Not because it tastes particularly good, but it was sort of part of habit. And then I looked at it longer, and I realized that there was a poem in it. Tradition. I grasped in my hand a bundle of rice wrapped in leaves, forming triangles. I pull the string, unlocking the tiny knots, releasing a long, thin strand. I tug at the dry green leaves, holding the sweet rice within. Peeling it back, I begin to open.
Where did you find the inspiration and impetus to write Equal Opportunity?
Well, Equal Opportunity was a story more than a poem. And it came from my listening to a lot of older Chinese in Chinatown, telling stories. And what they've done was that they were telling stories, but it was kind of funny because the stories, it was almost like a competition. It was a story, and they were all funny because they were talking about each other's experiences. And the competition was to see how much pain each person has endured. And somehow a lot of the anecdotes, a lot of the humor comes out of a lot of pain that's come out through the past. And Equal Opportunity is a bit of irony. I don't know whether or not it's entirely true that these instances, and possibly it could have all happened, in some time in Chinese North America, because there is a lot of time. But it's ironic because the Chinese, in fact, gotten something out of it.
Equal opportunity. In early Canada, when railways were highways, each stop brought new opportunities. There was a rule. The Chinese could only ride the last 2 cars of the trains. That is, until a train derailed, killing all those in front. The Chinese erected an altar and thanked Buddha. A new rule was made. The Chinese must ride the front 2 cars of the trains. That is, until another accident claimed everybody in the back. The Chinese erected an altar and thanked Buddha. After much debate, common sense prevailed. The Chinese are now allowed to sit anywhere on any train.
What prompted you to write Jimmy the Waiter?
Well, I worked all my life as a waiter, more than any of the other professions inside of a restaurant. And there's something about being a waiter, also being in the service industry, and especially if you're Chinese, is that sometimes the hostility, the bad food, the bad humor, the drunks, for whatever reason, okay, the scorn that's heaped onto you often touches onto the racial barrier. You get called every name under the sun, and especially it relates to your skin. So there's a rule that in the profession says that you never razz a waiter and you never speak ill of a cook, because you don't know what's going to happen to your food before you get it.
Here's to Jimmy the Waiter. I caught him picking his nose and flicking the snot into the cream of mushroom soup. Now that's for calling me a chink. I know him, and he wouldn't hurt a fly, but would think of nothing of serving it up, the crackers.